This is Tim from the Nano Blitz, bringing you another Madden 18 video. If you like it, go ahead and hit the like button and or subscribe. And for more content, check out thenanoblitz.com. In today's video, we're going to be talking about relocation, which we've done before, but specifically here, we're going to be talking about the 10 relocation teams that would work in St. Louis. As we know, no new jerseys were added to Madden 18 for relocation, but previous jerseys designated for LA in the Madden franchise were repurposed this year for San Diego. So I thought, what other existing mascots could work in St. Louis, as St. Louis is the only city that does not have new rebranding options if you relocate there. Now, not that this would be something easy for developers to make work in game, but it might be easier than designing all new jerseys and mascots. So here are our top 10 relocation teams that would work in St. Louis. Starting at number 10, I'm going to go with the Bulls. This team can be found currently in Brooklyn along with the Barons and the Beats, all of which are very generic, and honestly, generic is good. But the Bulls are my favorite here, and I think if Chicago could pull it off, why couldn't St. Louis? So when we look at the three teams, though, what I really like about the Bulls is that color scheme, and that would actually match very well with what the St. Louis Blues have going on, kind of keeping it in the St. Louis tradition. Now, the Bulls jerseys options are all very similar, with the only differences coming in the shoulder stripes. The first one has that Nike mesh web that we first saw in the collegiate game, and then the second has the very bold collar and the bold yellow on the sleeves. The third option, which is my favorite, is very classic. It has just the two yellow stripes on the side, and to me, that is perfect. That's very classic, and it's what I'd like to see on any professional team that I would root for. Here's a look at that jersey on an actual player model, and something you're going to notice with all of these models is that anything marked as the secondary color will always be that red, and anything marked as team color will always be a navy blue, regardless of what color the jerseys are. This can create some very cool jersey looks, or maybe something to avoid depending on the scheme. Coming in at number 9 on the list are the Voyagers, one of the teams found in Houston relocations. And while this won out, I also considered the Gunners, which was a team that St. Louis had in 1934. But the Voyagers, which should be representing NASA in its voyage to outer space, could also represent all of the sailors who have voyaged the mighty Mississippi, as well as all the explorers who came through St. Louis and voyaged into the Great West. We are the gateway to the West after all. Now, similar to our last team with the Bulls, the Voyagers do have a blue and yellow color scheme, though the blue is a little bit different color. And the pants are going to be gray this time instead of blue or yellow. With our different shoulder options, we have the one here that looks like Tampa Bay's, we have the one with the classic 3 stripes, and then we have this one, which is the only option with a yellow helmet. I, again, like the classic looks, so I'm going to go with the one with the 3 stripes. In the closer look at that jersey on an actual player, you'll see what I was talking about with the team color sleeve and the secondary team color sleeves. But all in all, I like this jersey. I think it looks sharp. Making number 8 at the list are the Marshals, one of the teams found in a San Antonio relocation. Why the Marshals? Well, Marshals are a staple of Western culture, and St. Louis is the gateway to the West. It is a fit, albeit not a perfect fit, which is why it only comes in at number 8. With the Marshal uniforms, you don't see any change in the pants or the helmet styles, and all of the numbers have a very cool gradient look to them. With our shoulder stripes, we have the very basic low stripes. Then we have this kind of bursting stripe on the side of the shoulders, and then finally this tiger-looking stripes that go over the top of the shoulders. While I like this look very much, I don't think it really fits with my Marshal theme, so I'm going to go with the second option, which is that bursting gold on the side of the jerseys. Here we see Deshaun Kaiser modeling that new jersey look for us, and you can see again that secondary sleeve color that doesn't match anything else. Would have loved if the game could have figured out that my secondary color was gold, but no worries. At number 7, I looked at Salt Lake City's teams, where I almost took the Pioneers, but settled on the Flyers because of St. Louis's unique history. When we think of flying in St. Louis, we think of TWA, we think of Boeing, or we think of Charles Lindbergh in the spirit of St. Louis. So the Flyers really met my needs for a St. Louis theme. With the different jerseys for the Flyers, we again see some very traditional shoulder stripes. And the first two jerseys match as far as pants and helmets go, but in our third jersey we actually see a mix-up of the pants, bringing us white pants at home, and we see blue helmets instead of black ones. Now when I judged all three of these against each other, as you guessed it, I'm a fan of the classics, so I went with the simple stripes on the side of the shoulder pads. Looking at the character model itself, we see that those numbers have a pretty cool gradient on it, which we didn't mention before. And while I would have really loved a bright blue color on that arm sleeve, that red doesn't look bad in contrast, just saying. At number 6, we're going to go to Oklahoma City for the Bisons. Now, we couldn't choose the Lancers because they have OKC in the logo, and the Nighthawks are probably Nate's choice because they're purple, but I really like the Bisons because they are generic enough and Western enough to fit a St. Louis theme. So that's what I'm picking. The color scheme with the Bisons is reminiscent of an old Denver team, and this first jersey is fairly classic, while the second jersey is almost too modern with its crackling shoulder pad options. Maybe you like that? It's just not for me. And the third option kind of meets all of my needs right there in the middle, where it has a very classic look, but kind of modern stripes on the sides of the shoulders with the logo. So that's the one I'm taking. I do really like how this jersey looks on our player model, and that secondary color that we see on the sleeve and the shoes almost matches our orange, though it is off just a bit. Still, this is a uniform that I'd love to use in CFM. At number 5, we have the Desperados out of Austin. Again, this is a great generic Western mascot that really fits St. Louis and Missouri, as Missouri is home to a number of famous Desperados. Oh, like, say, Jesse James? Anyway, I think it's going to be a good fit. Our three jersey options are pretty different. The first featuring that gray home jersey with the red pants. All of these first two having the black helmets, and we see they look very classic. This third one, though, has those gray pants with those gray helmets, and man, I like that look, so I'm taking it. Then we get a player into that home jersey, and I just really love that feel. It almost reminds me of Oakland with a splash of red, and those red secondary sleeves actually work for this team. So yeah, I'm a fan of this jersey option. At number 4, we have the Blues from the Chicago options. Now, we already have the St. Louis Blues as a hockey team here in St. Louis, but it wouldn't be the first time that we had two professional teams with the same name. So to me, the Blues definitely fit in St. Louis. Now, if you watched our previous relocation video, you know that I like those misty looks on the shoulder pads, and that's probably going to be the jersey I take. While our second option is very simple and classic, and then our third option has that really cool tiger stripes over the top of the shoulders, which again I like but doesn't fit my theme, so I'm going to go with that misty look on the shoulder pads. Here are those jerseys on an actual player, and I hope you can see what I really like about that look on those shoulder pads. There's just something about it that I love, and that red color doesn't look bad on the shoes either. At number 3, we're going to take the Aviators, a team that you would find if you tried to move to Columbus. And we're taking them, as we explained earlier, because of St. Louis's ties to the history of flight. Now, another team I would have liked to have chosen here were the Explorers. However, the Explorers have that giant C in their logo, which stands for Columbus, and wouldn't really work for a St. Louis theme. So we're sticking with the Aviators. Our first two jersey options are going to have the white helmets and very classic shoulder stripes, which is something I've already said I'm a fan of. Our third option has the Nike mesh shoulder stripes that we've seen before and goes to a blue pants and a black helmet. I'm going to take that second option with the very bold stripe going over the top. Looking at this jersey on a player, I love the way that white helmet looks, and believe it or not, I really love how that secondary color looks on the sleeves and shoes. So this, to me, is a very good look for a football team. At number 2, we have the Thunderbirds, and while Madden has this team in Toronto, the legend of the Thunderbird is no secret to us in St. Louis, the state of Missouri, or even in southern Illinois, which means it would speak to a St. Louis fan base very, very well, which is why we put it in at number 2. While the jersey options for the Thunderbirds are all very simplistic, Honestly, that's what I love about them. As I've been saying all video long, I love these classic stripe options, and I'm going to end up going with that first one that has the stripes on the sides of the shoulders. As we take a closer look, I've got to say, Andrew Luck has never looked so good. And that secondary color that we see on the sleeve really works with these jerseys and these color schemes. So this is one of my favorite jersey choices I've seen all video long. Finally, at number 1, we go to Memphis, where we find the Steamers, an obvious choice because of our closeness to the Mississippi River and our history with riverboat life. Not to mention all of the professional teams in St. Louis that have at some point sported the Steamer logo. Our jersey options are red or gray with a black helmet, or black with a red helmet. Now, if you go to our previous video on relocation titled Relocation Basics, you can actually see the black jersey with the red helmets. So here, I'm going to choose the red jerseys with the black helmets. The gray ones are nice too, however I think they're just a little plain for my taste. Here we see our player model, and again, those secondary sleeves do somewhat match this red for our team colors, which is kind of a bonus. But man, I do think these jerseys look pretty slick. So that is our top 10 relocation teams that would work in St. Louis. And while you may not have a tie to St. Louis, I hope this showed you at least 10 relocation options that you could consider in your CFM mode. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe, and check out more content at our website, thenanoblitz.com, where we have a blog and a podcast. Thank you for watching, and as always, play your game, Chad.